Always happy to be joined by Chase Hooper, who competes this weekend in St. Louis against Slavaklaus, Viacheslav Borshchev. What do you think of this matchup? I mean, this is a very interesting one. This guy's a heavy hitter, but also has had suspect wrestling in the past, thing that I think you probably pretty clearly can exploit.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about this matchup. It's very much one of those old school. Like this is really the matchup that like UFC was built on is like the striker versus the grappler. Like these two more specialists going at it to see who's better at their side of martial arts, but in the mixed martial arts space. So I feel like it's a really yeah, like a very black and white matchup. He's gonna try and beat me up. I'm gonna try and take him to the ground and beat him up down there. Uh, I I don't know. I think it's pretty easy. Like there's really no secrets here. Like as far as I don't think he's gonna be under the impression that I'm gonna try to grapple or strike with him the whole night, and I'm not under the impression that he's gonna try and go for any takedowns. So it's I think it's a pretty honest matchup. It's like you're gonna try to beat me up. I'm gonna try to bring him to the ground. So yeah, but it's a fun one.
And you have worked your striking quite a bit more lately. I know you've been training a lot with Wonder Boy in South Carolina.
Yeah, not as much this camp. I just felt like I wanted more like a boxing style. I feel like Slava's got more of the boxing style, and he's more aggressive. Where out there, it's a lot of counter strikers, which they're great at what they do, but it's just a different style of striking. And I wanted some people to walk me down and just try to beat me up this camp, and we found that. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's trying to have more aggressive strikers, trying to knock my head off in the pocket, that type of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think this sport and at this level, it's really about winning in the easiest way possible. Like I'm not out here to be like, oh, I'm gonna outstrike him. There's That's just ego at that point, and ego doesn't pay the bills. It's the check for winning that does. So I think I still have an exciting style of grappling, but I'm not going to go out there with the intention of just banging it out with him. That's not the easiest way for me to win. That's the easiest way for him to be able to land something. So trying to bring it into my world, obviously.
And who did you bring in to try to emulate Slava Claus?
Um, you might actually know of him because, or like their team, Ivan Salivari's team. Their guy, Faye
Yeah,
Bursell,
he's
he
a
just
champion
fought
in
for
Unified.
Unified. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and he's a welterweight. So, and he's got some decent wrestling. So, more just having a guy like that, like a bigger dude that's going to try and keep me from being able to take him down. Training with a lot of the guys at Ivan's, more on the sparring side of things. Getting in there with some people that I'm not as comfortable with. And then, it's still measured, but it's kind of closer to replicating what you would get in the fight where you're like, all right, I don't know this guy. I don't know, any of his tendencies. I got to be on point all the time and, try and work my own game. And, yeah, that was really fun this camp, honestly. Just getting out there and sparring with people that I'm not used to sparring with.
Yeah, Faye's a really solid sparring partner in that regard. He's a great pressure fighter, somebody who's really good at stuffing takedowns, keeping the fight on the feet, very, very good at scrambling and getting back to his feet. So I imagine he probably tested you a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a good mutual exchange of things. Like their gym has a lot of great striking and some pretty solid wrestling, but the jujitsu I would say is definitely the part where I was able to take over. But I mean that's I would hope I would have better jujitsu than some guys when I've been doing that my whole life. So yeah, I think it's a good exchange of styles and all that, like helping each other out. Yeah, it was a great time.
And you're going to be a dad soon. You're going to be a dad in about a month. So I imagine you're greatly looking forward to that. And I saw that you graced us with your presence for your baby moon. You went to the Great White North to Vancouver and went across the border. So how was that trip for you? And tell me about this next month for you and how you're looking forward to becoming a father.
Yeah, Vancouver was actually kind of my like last hurrah before jumping right into the dieting. So it was nice to go out there. Tons of great food. So we really took advantage of that while we were out there. But yeah, I mean, I've been living, only a couple hours away from Canada for my whole life. So I figured might as well take the trip up there. We were wanting to maybe fight before like May, and then around this time go somewhere else for that. But it's on UFC's schedule, not mine. You got to take the matchups you can get, and this was a great one, especially in front of a crowd. So I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, we didn't get to do anything too crazy. Just a little weekend trip up to Canada, and then yeah, that was nice. And then take care of business this weekend. Then get to relax a little bit, more focus on the baby stuff, and then adjusting to not sleeping. So yeah, we'll see how all that goes. I mean, it's my first time, so pretty much just gonna wing it. But who doesn't?
Yeah, I just noticed you haven't fought in front of a crowd, I don't think, for almost 2 years. So that must be
Yeah,
refreshing for you.
3 years
Three
says the
years, yeah.
wife over.
Glendale was 3 years ago. That's right.
Yeah, Izzy and Vittori, where he had his shorts on backwards. I think. Great
That's a
time,
classic
great
moment.
card.
Mm. Now, another question I wanted to ask you. I watched the Jackson podcast that you were on, and you had mentioned that I guess you and your parents don't have the closest relationship. So how did that come to be that your parents aren't really as involved in your life, and you've been, I guess, on your own since you were 18?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I don't know. We just didn't really have a good family dynamic. That type of thing. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, it's just, yeah, I don't know. It was kind of like my sister. She enlisted in the military. Like, she went to the Marines. She's a couple years older than me. And then I think my mom moved out, and then my dad moved out, and was like, I don't know. It was such a weird. Like, it's generally the kids leaving the nest instead of like. It's not like they gave me a nice house or anything. It was like a trailer, and it was like a kind of like a hoarder house. Um, Low key, yeah. So that was a lot of work to try and fix that up. But essentially, it was like, all right, you know, either you can move in with me and my girlfriend and live in her backyard, or you can take this house, or figure out your own thing. So I did that, and then again, not a house. It was like a trailer, pretty much. And then what it was like a double wide, which is fancy trailer, but still. Um, and then yeah, I mean, it was just me and my girlfriend at the time, now wife, just fixing it up, um, paying the bills by fighting on the local circuit. That's the nice thing, is stuff like that's cheap. So the $1,000 every month, we were able to make that work. So I mean, it was a hell of a come up, but I'm really thankful, obviously, that I have the career path that I do, and to have been able to make it this far in UFC. And now we have a real house, a big adult house. I mean, not that big, an adult house. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of character building along the way, but yeah, we're here.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like those are things that are probably pretty integral to the person that you've become, is having to fend for yourself and figure things out on the flies. Do you talk to your parents still at all? Or are they involved with your life, at all
Not a
anymore?
ton. I just I'm doing my own thing. You can, I don't know, like everybody says, like, you don't get to choose your family, but you get to choose the people that you're surrounded by. Um, and I got plenty of good ones, so I don't feel like I need a ton of extra people. My wife's family's great, so we spend a lot of time with them. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, like, if there wasn't something wrong with me, I wouldn't be cage fighting for a living. Now would I?
Well, I mean, it tends to be that way for a lot of people. But at the same time, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of fighters, and you seem to have a really great head on your shoulders in terms of, getting your life together and being able to do the things that you do, and being able to do what you're doing at such a young age compared to a lot of other people. This is what, your seventh or eighth UFC fight at this point in time. You're 24 years old. Like, you're way ahead of the game when it comes to combat sports in terms of how much you've been able to accomplish so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it out of necessity, but yeah, no, I've been lucky to be surrounded by good people, outside of that, to show me the ropes. And yeah, I mean, necessity breeds the motivation, which That's why I'm here. You know, you got to win fights to pay the bills. So you gotta win the fights, I guess.
And are your coaches kind of the closest thing that you have had to like parental figures for the last whatever 5 6 years?
Yeah, I would say so, for sure.
And now Jeff Hoagland's a former UFC fighter, and he's been one of your primary coaches for some time. So I'm sure that he was pretty integral in terms of getting you adjusted to the lifestyle of being a UFC fighter and what goes into it in terms of diet, in terms of fight week, and all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, probably from like really like as soon as I started doing the MMA stuff, like during the summers, I would pretty much just get on whatever his routine was. Like, you know, we would go lift weights or like go swim, that type of thing in the mornings, and then train at night. So it's been good to be, you know, surrounded by that for sure. Yeah, I mean it's kind of a weird sport where there's not really a super set protocol for things. So you just kind of have to do what everybody else is doing. And, you know, obviously it's been the right thing, especially with the weight cuts. Like, yeah, no, it's been nice, obviously, to have somebody that knows what they're doing. And he's been at the highest level just like me. So, yeah.
This is your first win streak right now that you're currently on in the UFC. So how important was that for your nerves? Because I imagine going into that last fight against Jordan Levitt, like you still have in the back of your mind, like I keep winning one, losing one, winning one, losing one. Now that that's behind you, I imagine that you've got a lot more confidence going forward that you can, get some sort of consistency going.
Yeah, honestly, I was really my mindset was hearing Max Holloway talking about how he went 3-3 in his first 6 UFC fights. And obviously he fought crazy guys like Connor and Dustin in his first, 6 UFC fights. So no slouches there at all. But, it's one of those things where obviously like he fought high level guys, but there's an adjustment period. Like really after I would say the Fiore fight and like really the last 2 fights are when I feel like I've settled into the UFC and like now it's normal. Like this stuff is pretty normal to me now. I've got the weight cut down to a great process. I'm not, killing myself too much to make 155. So it's been pretty good so far. Just kind of adjusting. I think that was really the biggest thing. Whether it's mentally or just the physical adjustment to 55, I feel like a lot better off than I was. I really am starting to kind of understand like my first couple fights, kind of during like the COVID stuff, because everybody was at that little hotel in Vegas. So you'd see somebody like Paul Felder, just running around doing his thing the morning of, and he'd be like, "Oh, hey, have fun in there tonight." And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, thanks." In the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know what that means. I've never had fun in a fight. I'm scared out of my mind. I don't know, but I feel like I'm getting to the point where I can kind of understand that a little bit. Like I'm excited. I'm excited to go out there and compete in front of a crowd, and show off the stuff that I've been doing the past 2.5 months for this camp, and then just show off all the improvements. So I think really getting the 2 wins obviously was great. Like 3 would be even better. I think that'd probably give me a nice bump in pay next time around. But got to do the damn thing first. So.
Well, hopefully that comes to fruition this Saturday. It's been great seeing your evolution as a fighter. Your move to 155 pounds, I think, has really reinvigorated your career at such a young stage of your career, and I look forward to more of your success, Chase. Thanks so much for doing this.
Hey, appreciate it. Great talking to you.